There are a lot of new fans who get introduced to Fallout via the newer titles, myself included. Many get sucked into the world, want to discover the lore, but find the old titles to be rather challenging to play. Now, such players could watch Shoddycast or Oxhorn, sure, but there's a strong lack of personal experience when being fed secondhand sources. It's like watching a documentary rather than experience the past for yourself. The difference? A time machine doesn't exist. Digital media that immortalizes a fictional work does. So they want to play the titles and experience the world of old Fallout for themselves. But their experiences tend to end up like this.
Not even the Carrion Eaters are interested in your radiated corpse.
That's not to say that they're hard games, but they do have a steep learning curve when faced by those used to modern game design. Coming from 3D games to classics is quite the jump. I know. I was one of them. That's why I made this short guide to explain how the to play Fallout 1. I'm dividing this into 4 parts: the UI mechanics, the build, some gameplay to run it all together, and top it off with a little bit of last minute tips. The gameplay section will feature a small collection of early missions to try to give you a handle on things. UI and mechanics. The various world spaces of classic Fallout are divided into hexagonal grids overlaid with scenery. You will see the hexagonal effect by simply right-clicking your mouse and cycling through the different cursors. There's the main cursor, which you'll use to interact with the world, the hexagonal cursor, which will be used for movement, and the final cursor. It's only used in combat mode to signal a desire to attack. We'll talk about combat mode later. For the most part, you'll be using the hexagonal and interacting cursor. Inventory management is fairly similar, although not nearly as organized as the newer games. Items gather weight. Too much weight and you'll move a lot slower, and eventually you cannot move at all. So this concept overlaps very well. To access your inventory, click the IMV button here. You can also click I on the keyboard. This segues pretty well into explaining the entire bar here. Below the IMV button is the pause menu. Click that, click Preferences, which are the options, and set things to how you like. If you want combat to be easier, go ahead. But I mostly recommend setting combat messages to brief, set your character to always run, and set combat speed to maximum. After all, it's a turn-based game, so it's going to be a tad slow regardless. To the right of the pause and inventory button is your active slot. You can put anything here and it's your equipped item. Example, a gun. But it could be used for, say, a stim pack or a key. You actually have 2 slots. Click this red button here to cycle between them. Naturally, whichever is showing up is the active one. If you do have a gun, you can click your gun to activate its current mode. Sound confusing? Say you have an SMG, a rapid firing weapon. By right-clicking it, you can cycle between single shot, bursting, and reloading. Single shot also has an extra mode for aiming, which uses VATS. Yep, same concept as VATS for the newer games, except with more options. Again, we could get into combat mode later, but to swap your current gun mode, simply right-click on it. Then, when you want to activate it, left-click. Left-clicking on reload does exactly that. Then it swaps you to an attack mode, just a single shot or burst. But stepping away from the slide weapons, we'll see HP and AC. HP is obvious, I hope. It's hit points, health. AC, or armor class, however, doesn't show up in the newer games, mostly because this is a turn-based title. This game is all stats. Without going into too much detail, this reduces the chance of getting hit by an attack. Map pulls up the map. Well, the location's mini-map anyways. I have never found this particularly useful. CHA is important, however. That's you, your character page. It's where you get all your statistical information, any conditions you may be under, where you put your points, and choose your perk. Yeah, you'll grow fond of this button. I'm sure you can guess what Pip is. It's your Pip-Boy. Specifically the Pip-Boy 2000. Yep, this is the inspiration for Fallout 76 Pip-Boy, which is a really nice Pip-Boy, if I may add. Click on it and you will bring up a note saying that you have X amount of days to get the water chip. This is a worry for a lot of new players. Look, unless you're running around the world map like crazy, you'll be fine. Just follow the main story, you'll get the chip in time, probably with about 50 days or so to spare. Now, the next useful thing in the Pip-Boy is the date. More specifically, that little bell. That's how you wait at a location and pass the time by. Very similar to waiting in the 3D Fallout titles. Waiting helps move some specific quests forward, and heals you up if you're running out of stimmies. Again, don't worry about running out of time too much. There's also the status page. The main use for this is that it gives you a quest tied to a location, which really is just a basic description of what you were initially told. It's more of a reminder of a quest, not something that actually helped guide you through one. Auto map. Again, I haven't found much use in the mapping system. Archives, however, play some CG stuff that you unlock over time. Nothing grand, but hey. Finally, skill decks. This is how you do things like, say, pick locks or steal from someone. It's context sensitive. So, let's say you want to use science on a computer. You click the skill decks, or you can hit S on the keyboard. Click science, then click the computer. Lockpick, click the lockpick, then click what you want to unlock. Steal from someone, click steal, click the NPC. Heal yourself, click first aid, then click yourself. See where I'm getting at? Context. You could try some of these things repeatedly too, since it's a dice roll mechanic, like lock picking, but there's a chance of jamming the lock. First aid you could do multiple times on yourself, but honestly, if you're low on the first aid skill, you'd be better off just waiting, or using stimmies if you have them. Now, off the user bar and onto the world. If there's an item on the ground, having your interaction cursor will highlight it. Sometimes these items can be really difficult to see, so keep an eye out. Also on the subject of visible indicators, most important NPCs don't have unique sprites. Honestly, for Fallout 1, I think there's a total of maybe 4 NPCs that do. However, there's usually some subtle ways the game will try to lead you to talk to someone. For instance, in a specific room, there may be only one NPC that has long hair, or perhaps they're wearing a different type of clothing. They may also just be in the right position to say, yep, I'm talkable. Other than that, the main thing you should know are the exit grids. One's green, the other is red. The green ones lead you to another part of the same location or town. The red ones send you out to the world map. Simply run across either to be magically teleported. Unlike newer Fallouts, the classics are divided into several small world spaces linked together via world map. Click a square on the world map and time will move forward as your little red indicator here travels to the location. When you discover a new area, a button will appear here. Click it and you will instantly be targeted to that area square, such as Vault 15 here, which is the first location marked on your map, short of Vault 13. Shady Sands is the first location most players will discover because it's on the same horizontal path as 13 and 15. In addition, sometimes you'll be stopped from traveling. An encounter has happened. It's a dice roll, but if you have a high outdoorsman skill, the encounter will become an option rather than being forced. But if it's not high enough, you're forced into the encounter. Most of these are against hostile mobs, but not always. Some are even special and can give you nice stuff. Everyone likes nice stuff, right? Now, I said it twice, let's talk about combat mode. Much of the same gameplay element applies here, but at the expenditure of action points. Yep, action points. This was also carried over from the classics, but they have a rather all-encompassing role here, at least in terms of combat. Action points are needed to make any action, from accessing your inventory, to moving hexes, to firing your gun. If you move one hex, you use up 1 action point. Reloading typically costs 2, firing can vary, it's all listed here below on your active weapon, but typically can cost around 4 to 6 action points, and that's without aiming. It's not as nerve-wracking as it sounds though. Your enemies also follow the same rules. In addition, there are perks you can take to either increase your AP or lower AP costs. There's also companions you can grab which will help you put out DPS, though there's only 4 in this game, first 3 being a lot more useful than the last one, but hey. When you activate a weapon outside of combat mode, you're in a limbo state, where you're technically in combat mode, but you can stop it and not cause any hostility. You can fire, permanently causing combat mode until everyone in the area besides you and your buddies are dead, or you escape. Clicking your weapon will activate the combat cursor, and you can shoot anyone that's glowing red that's in your line of fire. Remember, your companions also glow red. Make sure you don't mistake them for an enemy that uses the same design, or else you have to reload if you don't want to give them the old yellow treatment. Let's talk a little bit more about shot modes. Single shot is exactly as it sounds, a single bullet that does any amount of damage after it calculates armor resistance. Aimed shots are a bit more special, and a bit more expensive. They target a specific body part which can be crippled, but are usually harder to hit. Eyes are the hardest to hit, but does benefit from having the highest critical chance. Very useful. Burst shots are next. Fire out multiple shots at once, giving devastating damage, but it chews through ammo. It also fires in a cone shape, so one hexing a target will do the most damage. This about covers the basics of combat mode. But one more thing. If you want to heal up, you can go to the full health without spending more AP than it takes to access your inventory. When you access your inventory, Hold left click on your stimmy, then click this button to use it. Repeatedly do this until you're full health. It's a very cheeky mechanic. Anyway, the build. Now, I want you to think of Fallout New Vegas as the closest translatable knowledge. And not even because of the setting, though that can be a consideration too, but because of the way builds work. See, Fallout 3 and 4 have a perk with each level. Fallout New Vegas has a perk every 2 levels, and Fallout 1 and 2 has a perk every 3 levels. In addition, Fallout New Vegas has traits, perks that come with positive and negatives upon character creation. Still, there's a plenty of difference in the way builds are handled between New Vegas and the classics, so it's not a perfect comparison. It's just the closest one that works, so keep New Vegas in mind as a reference point, but don't rely on it. For the build, I'm going to give you a cliche cookie cutter It Just Works build that can handle pretty much everything just dandy. It's a build that helped you win the game, perfectly allowed to alter it if you choose, or forgo it entirely, but the goal is to beat Fallout 1, right? It's the crit sniper build, one that focuses on small guns until the Holy Grail energy weapons appear. To start off, I chose the traits of Small Frame and Gifted. Small Frame gives you a +1 in agility at the cost of reduced carry weight. I understand that the newer games are something of a lootathon, but you really don't need to carry too much around. Keeping companions around as pack mules can negate some of this anyways. And Gifted is honestly cheating in the originals. It gives you a +1 in each special, at a reduction of skills gained per level, which really isn't a big deal at all. A high intelligence reduces some of that issue anyways. You know what special is, I don't need to explain that, but I will explain the choices. Strength of 5. Like I said, it's not really a big deal that you reduce the carry weight. A low strength, however, can mess up your shots if you're not skilled with a specific weapon type. 5 is just fine to handle any small gun. You need 6 to use any energy weapon without a penalty, but by the time you're using them, you'll likely have power armor, which gives you a +3 in strength. So meh. There's also an implant for strength that you can get from the Brotherhood of Steel. If you're really worried about it or just can't keep your filthy, grubby hands off of stuff, you could trade 1 intelligence for an extra point of strength, I suppose. But like I said, it's really not a big deal. Perception of 7. I chose 7 for a couple of reasons. It's above anything except Sniper for good perk requirements. You need 8 for Sniper, and that's a really good perk. But you can get an implant from the Brotherhood of Steel. However, this perk doesn't become available until level 18, and there's a good chance you'll beat the game before then, so it's kinda negligible. In most playthroughs anyways. Endurance of 6. Main thing is it affects your HP. 6 is just fine for any perk. Toughness is a pretty decent one, though it's hardly needed, but 6 is good enough for that. Charisma of 2, dumb stat in Fallout 1, hardly useful. Only reason it's 2 rather than 1 is because Gifted forces a minimum of 2 per stat. Charisma is more useful in 2, but that's a video for a later take. Intelligence of 9. 9 is just fine to get any decent amount of skill points and well above any perks that require intelligence. Agility of 10. Agility affects your action points. Math works out like this. AP equals agility divided by 2 plus 5. What you simply need to know is that for every 2 in agility, you get an action point, and the minimum amount of action points you can have is 5. 9 would be good for any perk, and you can also get an implant from the Brotherhood of Steel. However, reducing the agility to 9 would also lower the action points, and is really unneeded to min-max in this game. DPS is king of combat in the older Fallouts, and I'd rather you have a great combat potential throughout most of your game as a newbie. Luck of 9. Crit chance, crit chance, crit chance. You can raise your luck midway through the game by talking to an NPC named Chuck. You can actually raise it 2 points due to a bug, so you can reduce this to 8. However, this guide assumes that you don't want to use that exploit. Now, these are the skills that I tagged. Small guns, lockpick, speech. You'll use these the most. The end goal is to get energy weapons, but that doesn't really come along until near the end of the game. Once you knock each of these skills up to 100, I recommend starting to throw them at energy weapons. Now, you're ready. After the opening cutscenes, you'll be in a cave full of rats. These rats are really easy to deal with. Usually, 1 bullet will kill them. Before doing that, dig through Edward here and grab some goodies from him. He's not going to be needing them. Now, the rats. You really don't have to kill them, but they're easy to kill and you need that sweet XP, so why not? Access your inventory, grab the 10mm pistol, and throw it into slot 1. If you want, you can put the knife into slot 2. Now, with your 10mm ready, you can deal with the rats. Pop them like you're popping pimples. And like pimples, you're gonna miss a few times due to low skills. Run up to them and let them waste a few APs once they notice you. They may bite you a little bit, but it shouldn't really lower your health too terribly. These are one of those type of mobs that are so slow they let you have 2 turns before they attack. Just shoot them. Don't even bother with aim shots yet. You're too low in skill to make it worthwhile, and like I said, one bullet usually kills them. Kill an area, find another and repeat. Reload your guns when you need to. Remember, by right-clicking until the option comes up, then left-clicking. And it's usually best to reload outside of combat when you can. Clear out the cave and rack up some experience. You're ready to leave. Head to the exit and step on the red grid. Here is the world map. As I stated, time will move when you traverse across the map, but don't worry too much about it. Now, the first area you'll be discovering when heading towards Vault 15 is Shady Sands, which in the Falloutverse is a really important area, but I'm not going to try to spoil too much about it if for some reason you don't know. Regardless, you'll be completing your first quest here, so stop at Shady Sands and enter the location. If it's night, click on the Pip-Boy and set to wait until morning. Fallout 1's a little weird in that wait until morning takes you to 6 AM. Except all the activity starts at 8 AM, so add those 2 extra hours. Regardless of what Fallout game it is, I recommend talking to any and everybody. However, the main one that you want to talk to here is Aradesh, who is the first talking head besides the Overseer. Only a few characters of importance have a talking head, so reading is a requirement. He'll tell you about the Red Scorpion problem. Before you decide to trek out and kill scorpions, let's grab Ian. Ian is your first and arguably most useful companion in the first game. He's better at small guns than you are initially, and adds more to the almighty DPS output. After asking him to join, he'll offer his services if you pay him 100 caps. Instead, you can offer him a piece of the action. However, this is a dice roll, and if you fail twice, he'll become unrecruitable. If you want that free companion, save before talking to him, and reload until you get him. Once you do get him, talk to Seth. He'll take you to the Rat Scorpion Cave. In the cave, there's a total of 9 scorpions that need to be killed. Ian will be able to help you kill them. Before Ian makes a shot, be sure to step out of the way. Accidental friendly fire is a thing, and is a dice roll mechanic. I recommend grabbing at least 1 scorpion tail before leaving. You can grab more if you like. They're a little heavy though. You can store any excess equipment by using your companion. Fallout 1's companion trading system is a little weird, in the sense it uses the bartering system. For instance, if you want to trade the tails with Ian and reclaim some later, you have to offer enough gear that's equal to or above the value of Ian's offer. However, this can be avoided by using the steal skill on companions, and you can steal from them with no repercussions. It's very strange and is something that's been fixed in Fallout 2. Anyway, you may have leveled up while you're here. Chuck everything into small guns. Your first goal is to get it to 100. With all the scorpions dead, it's time to leave. When you get back to Shady Sands, talk to Dr. Raslow. You'll be able to make an antidote with each tail. Use one on the patient in the back. How? Well, you remember how I was talking about context with the skills? Same is true for items. See, in a newer game, you just talk to them. A dialogue option would appear if the item exists in your inventory, and you just click that. In classic Fallout, you actually need to use the item on the patient. There are 2 ways you could do this. Number 1, you could stick the item in your slot, click on it, then click on him. That works. The other way to do it is to hold down left click on him. Click this button here, scroll down, and then click the antidote. Whichever your preference. He's healed and you got some sweet XP, son. Now, before we head to Vault 15, there's a rope we should grab. This is extremely well hidden, so I felt it was important to show. Heading northward, go to the green exit grid. You've now entered a new part of the town. There's a small shack out this way. On the floor, very well hidden, there's a rope that you need to get your cursor just right on. Grab it, head back to the green exit grid, then rush out to the red. Now, head right, get to 15. Enter the rundown building, climb down the ladder, you're in a cave. At this point, you probably gotta hang on shooting stuff. Kill the cave rats, pig rats, and mole rats. Clear out the upper vault floor. In the entrance hall, there's a little compartment with flares. They're not needed, but I did use one for visibility's sake for this particular segment. See, to the left is a broken elevator shaft. We have rope. What do we do? Again, and I keep reiterating this, but context. This is something I struggled a lot with when I first played. Games these days, you just click the elevator shaft, and if the rope's in your inventory, it would automatically put it there. Here, just like the poison dude, you can put it in your slot and use it on the elevator, or you can hold left click on the elevator floor and click the bag, then click the rope. Next level, more of the same enemies, but this part has goodies. This is the residential area. The leftmost bathroom has a hunting rifle, going to be useful for landing crits on early game human enemies. There's some ammo in the second left bedroom and the upper area. The locker to the second right bedroom has another rope and a leather jacket. That's the first piece of armor in this game. You're moving on up. Click your inventory, drag the jacket to the armor spot. Now you're somewhat protected. Use rope on the elevator shaft, Time to get to the final floor, which has the command area for the vault. Clear out their enemies and rifle through the lockers. So one of those lockers has an SMG. This is a great early game weapon for Ian, but it does have drawbacks too. Okay, so Ian with an SMG shreds up enemies, because he can be very burst happy. That's useful, like really useful. But not only can Ian turn a raider into a fine Swiss cheese with just the right aroma of iron-laced blood, you are in the same boat. If you're worried about being torn apart, you don't have to give it to him. But you should be fine if you stay out of the way. Adding more companions is when it gets a bit more dicey, as they can and will walk in front of him. Anyway, if you do give it to him, you can hand him off the majority of your 10mm ammo. He'll chew through it due to bursting. Grab the rest of the vault. Grab any goodies you want. Walk to the bottom right of the vault, you should get a message about a water ship not being there. Well, drats, time to look elsewhere. And this should be enough to get you started in Fallout 1, but I'll give you a little bit more advice. As you return to the surface, head to Vault 13 to report your failure to the Overseer. Third floor, the command center. With the right bits of dialogue, you can claim more ammo for free as well as a few more stimmies. In addition, also on the third floor, you can convince someone guarding a door to let you in. Even more ammos are in the footlockers. There's also a few more quests that can be done both here and Shady Sands. However, I'll let you discover those on your own. But there is one quest in particular that starts off only after you stop the rat scorpions and 2 days have passed, plenty of time when dealing with Vault 15. Aerodash's daughter, Tandy, has been kidnapped by the Khans. Yes, those Khans. Well, kinda. The Khans are the first form of the Great Khans. Anyway, rescuing Tandy can give you a decent chunk of XP. You can do it violently or non-violently. Non-violently yields more XP, but there's no reason you can't come back and finish the job. Taking out the Khans can be beneficial because they have nice early game gear, particularly leather armor. Using aim shots here with your hunting rifle is very beneficial because you'll be landing some crits. You can see the damage difference between non-crits and crits. Delicious. Saved often. Keep multiple saves. The number of dialogue bits are consequentials. For instance, you cannot hound any and everyone for money and expect it to go well, especially if they're mostly distressed. Reload saves when needed. Plus, this is an old game running on what I assume is newer hardware. You may need the extra save files. Finally, perks are very important for character building in this game. Use them wisely. Awareness is a good early game perk, and one of the first ones you can choose. This perk will allow you to see the health of individual NPCs, and let you decide which ones to kill off first. But here's a list of some of the most agreed upon best perks for Fallout 1, and I will circle the ones that complement this build well. That's about it for the final tips. I'm not entirely sure how good of an educator I am, but let me know if this helped you. And if it did, maybe I'll make one for Fallout 2 as well.